We're gonna have some practical insights and experiences in Morocco from the global operators. And this panel will be moderated by David Desta from GLL, VP from GLL. Please welcome him. And thank you so much, David. So the floor is yours. For your 4 speakers, you will have 40 minutes, and the countdown will appear down there. And then lunch.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Désolé, je parle un peu français, donc je préfère parler en anglais. Si vous avez besoin de traduction, tu peux mettre les choses. But good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be back in Morocco for my numerous times, and I think it's a true testament to show that Morocco is at a crossroads between Africa and Europe, and it's been captivating travelers when it comes to providing unique offerings, providing cultural, diversity, as well as essentially warm hospitality. But I think another crossroads we're looking at today is the mix between global hospitality and the Moroccan offering that we have. And I think operators have been present in Morocco for the past 20 years. They've been active throughout the markets, but now we're starting to see more attention brought to the field. There's a lot more interest. There's a lot of new developers trying to partner with brands. And I think it's a testament today that we will be able to get a glimpse from some of the global operators on what they think is the prime area to grow, what are the challenges they faced, and where they can work alongside you as investors as a whole. So from here, we have 5 representatives representing over 15% of Morocco's established hotel supply. And as you can see, one of them does have a significant proportion, but the others are actively working diligently to ensure that they're in the space, their brands are out there, and they're working alongside you. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce our panel. Starting from the left, we have Edgar Ale, who is currently working as Development Director at IHG. He's been traveling to Morocco for the past 20 years, and as a Barcelona fan, he hopes that they will find another Lamine Yamal in the midst of us. So please welcome to the stage, Edgar. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, you can sit wherever you want. Next, we have Shadi Hassan, who works with Marriott International as Vice President of Lodging Development. Shadi's career has taken him from working in operations in the Four Seasons Philadelphia, working at JLL in the Middle East, and now with Marriott expanding their brands in the North African and Middle East markets. Shadi has been to Morocco several times in the past. You might get him mixed up as a local, but he's further from the east in Egypt, so please welcome him to the stage. Yeah. Next, we have Govind Mundra, who works as Head of Development at the Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. Govind's going to be providing a unique perspective, as it is his first time in Morocco, and I'm sure it won't be his last. His career spans working in hotel real estate, finance, and also development with Taj Hotels in Southwest Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. So if you have any tips, please feel free to reach out to Govind, and he'll be more than happy to take some of yours. Thank you. Up next, we have Esteban Lazada, Managing Director for Hilton in North, West, and Central Africa. So Esteban has been traveling to Morocco around 40 times over the past 2 years, and during this time, almost exactly, and I think he's essentially a resident at this point. As you know, he works with Hilton, been very active, expanding their brands in France and also Northern Africa. But as you can see, you might mistake him for a football player, but an interesting fact, Esteban used to be a professional rugby player and actually came in 3rd place with Argentina in 2007, so he brings that competitive drive with him. So please, welcome to the stage. And finally, a face I'm sure all of you know, Reda, who works as Vice President of Development in North, West, and Central Africa. He's been with Accor for over 20 years, working in their corporate sales strategy before moving into development, and finally now taking a broader role in North, Western, and Central Africa. If you have any tips, once again, Reda knows the best tagine spots, the best place to go around town. If anyone's looking for an after party tonight, he's the person to ask. So please, welcome to the stage. So thank you, everyone. And as you can see, we have a wide range of development experts who've been very active throughout the region, who have been to Morocco on several occasions. And I think I'd like to start this conversation off by saying, yes, Morocco has over 60,000 keys. You represent a solid 15% throughout this market. But compared to the other regions you've been working in, how do you see Morocco differ throughout Africa and the Middle East? And I'd like to start off with maybe Shadi with this question, if you don't mind.
No pressure.
Straight from the hip.
No. First of all, it's a pleasure to be with you here, and pleasure to always come back to Morocco. As David mentioned, I've been coming back now for 2 years. I'm slowly falling in love with the food, with the culture, with the people. It's lovely to be here. As David mentioned, we've been present now in Morocco since 2010, so that was about 14 years. And we've managed to have, grow our portfolio to reach 9 operating hotels with just over 1,500 rooms. And we've got another 11 hotels in the pipeline. It's been a journey led initially by my colleague, Karim Shaltout, which some of you might know, together with my colleague Karim, who's here with us. But I've had the pleasure to work in several markets, whether it's North Africa, Egypt, Tunis, Morocco, and in my previous life with Marriott, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, as well as the Middle East. I have to say, over the last 2 years, I have seen a huge shift in the tourism investment portfolio that's coming into Morocco, the tourism arrivals that's coming into Morocco, and the product that's being offered, whether it's in the hotels, whether it's through airlift, accessibility, safety plays a key role. I'm originally from Egypt, and I can tell you that we only started seeing our tourism numbers go up once safety was provided. So this is something that you do feel when you land in Morocco, whether you're in Tanja or all the way down to Dakhla. And that plays a key role in growth.
That's interesting to hear. And I'd like to move on to Reda, as Morocco is your backyard. You know it like the back of your hand. You've been very active here and abroad. How have you seen it change over the past decade, and where do you think the unique factors are for hotels?
I think we are at a very, very great momentum for Morocco. As you know, Morocco is part of our DNA. We start many decades ago. We have today more than 40 hotels under operation and covering the main segments. That's why we have a very good vision over all the segments that we could cover. For me, the thing that have really need to be emphasized is the realization of the vision and the strategy that all the authorities has put in place. Because the difference that you talked just before with Shadi, I think the difference between the other countries in Africa, they have a vision, good or not, it's not the debate, but doing the application on the field. And I love the private joke of Hamid this morning, saying that our problem has changed. Our problem now is to manage the flow at the airport. It shows you what achievement have been done. I joined Accor 20 years ago. To be frank, today, it's not the same Morocco that I have in front of me. If you travel to Casablanca Finance City, this achievement is awesome. It's amazing. I think that when you come outside from Morocco, you can notice all the achievement that all the authorities, all the private sectors have done. 1 decade before, there is no competition in Morocco. Accor was alone. Today, we are completely happy to welcome our friend from Marriott, from Hilton, from Radisson, from Wyndham, from IAG. And it shows you the competition that we have today because there is a great potential. And trust me, with my hat of Moroccan, it's just the start of the journey for Morocco.
Perfect. And you talk about the initiatives that Morocco have introduced over the past several years. You have Plan Azur, you have Plan 2030. Recently, Cap Hospitality has deployed over $500 million for these renovation plans or CapEx programs. Esteban, I'd like to bring this to you because, as you see, airlift is key. Source markets are also significant. How does this play within Hilton's plans for the market?
obviously in a very positive manner. We've been on the market since 1975 with the Hilton in Rabat. But until 3 or 4 years ago, we just had 3 open hotels. On the past 3 years, we have opened 5 hotels and we have signed 13 hotels. All the work, so I completely agree with the words that Shadi and Reda were saying. It's not only a vision, but it's how it's implemented and how the state and how the private, both parties have played its role and how they have implemented. The infrastructure development was amazing in this country during the past 10 years. All the réseau autoroutier, so all the roads, all the trains, the TGV, it's second to none in Europe. It's amazing. And now the plans to bring it down to Marrakesh and Agadir will do nothing but to keep increasing that development. The airports, but the links as well, so how do you call it, the airline links with the major capitals and secondary cities have done nothing but obviously increase our capacity and focus. As a company, we have completely changed our focus about North Africa, but specifically about Morocco 3 years ago, putting resource on site. So architecture and design, so project directors, architects speaking the language and having worked in Morocco. And unfortunately, I'm not living here, but I'm just across the Mediterranean in Spain, and I come here every 2 weeks because we have a massive focus in Morocco.
And I guess you speak about that significant increase in airlift. I think there's been 30% increase year on year, and that's been primarily driven by Marrakesh, Agadir, with significant growth in direct routes, with low-cost carriers to major source markets within Europe. I think, Govind, as your first time here, looking at the market, reading into it, what has impressed you, and how do you think that ties in well for Wyndham and the growth of your 2 hotels currently here in the market?
Yeah, so first time for me in Casablanca, but in last two days, I was able to go out, see the city a bit, visit some of existing hotel. And, a large part of my working career, I was in India. And I can see a lot of cultural similarities, a lot of food similarities. F&B is a key driver for hotels. India, where it was 20 years back, where we didn't have that much of airlift and number of airports and all of that. But as the infrastructure improves and the connectivity improves, it becomes much more easier for people to come in. And to points of Shadi, if it is safety and security, then people with family and all of that also start looking at this destination, which is a long haul, not from Europe, but if you look at East, Asia and all of them for them. So Wyndham, we have 2 hotels, which has been here for quite some time. I have moved from India to Middle East and Africa last year. And the idea is to grow our footprint in Africa, and Morocco is a very important part of our growth journey going forward.
It's great. You talk about these interesting regions in Morocco. I think around 60% of hotel supply is currently in Marrakesh, Agadir, Casablanca. And I'd like to bring this question to you, Edgar. IHG is interested to come to the market. You have a plethora of brands that can fit the, should I say, identity that you can see in this market. What regions are you looking at specifically, and what's attracting you, and how are you dealing with your investors through this journey?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, thank you for inviting us to be here in this panel. I would say it's the momentum for Morocco, but I would say it's also the momentum for IHG, right? We actually have a pipeline for hotels. We don't have more than that. We don't have any operating hotel. And IHG is one of the biggest hotel operators in the world, or globally. We believe Morocco is now one of our key priority markets. Having said that, we are putting a lot of resources. We are dedicating a lot of part of our teams focusing on in Morocco as a market, because we believe that the market is booming, right? Having said that, I think I answer your question. We don't have any presence. We are looking in opportunities everywhere, from Casablanca, from Marrakesh, Tangers, and even resort destinations, right? We are covering many segments from luxury to economy, and that's it's going to help us to be in the right spot in the right moment, right? And I think is the momentum now.
And I like that point you bring up about segmentation, because the great thing about Morocco is it attracts a wide range of travelers, from the high-end looking for luxury property to those looking at more intimate riads and, I guess, very attractive markets. To give you context, the first time I came to Morocco was back in 2018. I was fresh out of university, crippling with student debt, and I wanted to have a great experience throughout the country. So I landed in Fez, stayed in the market, took a bus all the way down to Marrakesh, a long 9 hours, but it was a great opportunity. And I think when we look at this, where and how do you find that blend between the international traveler, who you, I guess, have comfort in to attract your hotels, as well as the local aesthetic that you can't really find in, I guess, these complex, large box hotels? I'd like to take this to you, Shadi, who your pipeline is growing significantly. You have, I think, over 10 hotels in the works. 11, sorry. How exactly are you trying to address this gap?
You know, it's a very good question, and you know, before answering it, you know, you did mention earlier, where do you think is the next growth, or what's your strategy? Is it in Marrakesh, in Casablanca? And so what I've discovered, and it's something that we really admire, is Morocco has not just the primary cities, but even cities like Souaira or in Dakhla, it's up and coming. So you have, before the destination, I think at Marriott, the priority for us is the partner and the investor, and it's the people that we work with, right? And all of us, Reda mentioned, in the competition is great to have, and I call it complementary. We all have access to guests globally, right? Our Bonvoy currently is north of 220 million members. When we opened the St. Regis in Tamouda Bay in the north, we had a chat with our GM there. Usually Tamouda and the north in Morocco is just like Egypt, Sahel al-Shamali, only locals go there. And the GM told us the top market that was staying at the St. Regis were the US market. And you would have never thought, the Americans would go to, Tamouda Bay or... So for us, we see two trends that we'd like to focus on. Continue putting the Marriott flags with the right partners, allowing our Bonvoy members to, once they book, they look at the app, oh, Morocco, oh, there's a St. Regis. So we're driving a lot of direct business to our hotels, and obviously, as you know, that has a great impact on your P&Ls, where the business is coming from. But we're also focused on, and not just in cities like Marrakesh, travelers today look for experiential travel. And at Marriott, we've got 3 brands that offer this. We've got our luxury collection, our autograph collection, and our tribute portfolio. And more recently, we've launched Apartments by Marriott Bonvoy, which is the extended stay of collection brands. And if I look at hotels like the Ivans in Portugal, and I'm smiling at Edgar for another reason, but again, it's people go to this hotel because it offers something different. The Cotton House in Barcelona, it used to be a cotton factory. So when we're doing a collection hotel, there's a story behind it. The guest is not just coming to spend 8-9 hours sleeping in the room and going out spending. We're extending the experience of the city and the destination into the hotel. We have a lovely autograph collection coming up in Marrakesh, and hopefully it should be ready within the next year and a half, and I'm looking at Karim to see if this number is right. But again, we offer our guests something different. A Marriott, this Marriott is a wonderful addition, and Westmont did a fantastic job, and we're grateful for the relationship, and I hope you all enjoyed the renovation. People from Morocco remember it as the Sheraton, but you can see from the public spaces what has happened in that front. But again, we would focus on collection brands across the different destinations.
You shouted out a lot of brands, and I'm going to bring this to Reda because
he's got a lot more than me.
I think Reda's at 50 now, or 42 brands in your portfolio, or
very close to that.
I
yes,
think exactly. You've added the Habitas collection recently. I think you do have a couple of properties in outside of Marrakesh and also the property in Dakhla, how would you counter, I guess, your approach? You have so many options to choose from. How do you convince or how do you suggest investors to choose the right brand? Is it that they come to you with something in mind, and how do you help guide them through that process? Because in this environment, how many brands are there amongst us? Maybe around 120 plus? Like, how do you narrow down the right product for the right project without stepping on the toes of your clients, or in this case, the investors?
I think the most important thing is to propose something that makes sense in terms of profitability for the owner. And by profitability, which means that we need to assess what is the flow of main emitting market, what is the potential of the destination, what is the airlift also that we have on this destination. And from all that point, we can design what could be the best guest experience that we can deliver. And from that point, we can choose the brand. But we have also the option that our investors, they come and say, I would like this brand because I fall in love with this brand, because hospitality is a question of emotional interaction with the hotels. Interaction also with our, what we call inside Accor, the artist, which is the contraction with hurt and artist, which show you all the generosity that we have behind the operations. But I think, for me, one word or two words, guest experience. For me, it's the start of the assessment of which brands match perfectly to the project and to the destination. And that's why we have moved from a reduced portfolio of brands, very standardized in the past, with brands like Ibis, Novotel, Pullman, Sofitel, from now nearly 50 brands, in order to have the agility, the ability to have the perfect understanding of what the owners want, what the destination can offer, and which product and concept could match perfectly to give the best profitability at the end for the investor.
Okay, perfect, because I think from a brand perspective, you all compete with one another, trying to get the clients to sign up to your brand. I think it's interesting to see that, one, it's a very convoluted market. There's a lot to play around, but how do you convince these developers to go with you? And specifically, given your experience in the past couple of years, I'm going to give this to Esteban. You've signed several deals across the brands. How have you seen, what has been the major concern from investors for this market, whether it's from the cost per key, whether it's understanding the talent pool? What are some insights that you can maybe share?
So the first bit, how do you approach an investor in Morocco? I would say exactly the same as in 99% of the other countries. If you look at each country separately, and there are a few exceptions, main European capital cities, investment come from domestic money, domestic investors. So how do we approach them? Sitting with them, spending time with them, explaining the power of our brands, explaining how we went from 30 million members 10 years ago to 215 million members nowadays on the Hilton Honors, which brings more than 55% occupancy in our hotels globally. We explain what are our brands, of course, but what are our experience on the country, over 40 years operating hotels here. What are the experience of our architects, developers, etc. So the way of doing it, it's not different from another country, and it's understanding what the investor is looking for and finding which is the best solution for him.
And I'd like to pass on to Ed.
So I think it's a really good point, right, what Reda and Esteban were saying. Actually, I think that there are two most important points. I think one is when it's a new development, and the other one is when it's a conversion. I think when it's a new development, we really need to assess a lot of things, from the location, from the investment, and many other points which are very, very important. And the other part, which is when it comes to conversion, and I think this has been commented during all the conference, it's about the location, but it's also, we are very limited when it comes to the room sizes, the common areas, the facilities, right? So I think it's very important for all the owners and investors to understand that. We don't put a brand on the table because is the brand that we want. There are many reasons behind that that helps and will help to perform much better in that sense.
I think one thing we've seen is when you talk about conversions, it seems to be a pretty easy approach on paper, but when it comes to actual implementation, I'm sure you've seen the difficulties when it comes to older buildings who don't fit the specific design and technical specs that you have at, I guess, most of your brands. How do you, I guess, overcome that challenge? How do you convince banks to help fund and, should I say, bring capital? Because as you know, these are expensive and might cost just as much to convert a hotel than to build a new one. And I think it's interesting to see.
So I can even speak a little bit about my past experience, right? So I'm coming from Europe, where 90% of the hotels were independent, and it took us so many years to explain to the owners the benefits of a conversion, right? To that point that you're saying, yeah, it's a lot of investment, but as soon as you open the hotel, you see the benefits of it. And I think Morocco, 60 or 70% of the hotels are independent nowadays. Some of them are very old supply, but I think with the helps that they are going to have from the government and all of that, that's going to help them to push and to comply with all the standards that we are going to require, right? I think, yes, you're right. Sometimes it's not easy. There's a lot of investment because it's not only about the brand, it's also about the FLS, about engineering, plumbing, and all of that, right? So many things that we take into consideration.
Exactly. And Govind, I'd like to bring this to you. As a way to grow, do you think that's the best approach, looking at conversions? And we talked about independent hotels as well. Wyndham is known historically or primarily to be involved in franchise agreements with most of their projects. Do you see that as an opportunity moving forward? Have you seen, I guess, the waters moving in that regard?
So, great question there. We have been talking about conversion. So from a conversion point of view, what we have seen is, every owner's need is different, and it is very important to understand where the owner is coming from. Obviously, most of us being an international hotel company, fire, life safety, and brand standards end up becoming very, very critical. And if we are not able to do, then we are always in a fix of what solution we can do. At our end, I think 35% of our signings are always conversion. So we are able to work with owners and give them solution which works within the existing framework, but still, meet the FLS requirement, which we do. And in addition to our hard brands like Ramada, Wyndham, we also have soft brand, which is like trademark collection or registry collection. And these are some brands which doesn't have very hard requirement. And hotels which have characters and which have been independent can then be put into those, which obviously take away the burden of converting. Now, coming to your other question about franchise versus management, from a Wyndham perspective in Middle East and Africa, we have 72 operating hotels. 12 of them are managed, a large part is franchise. The way we approach an owner is if there's an owner who is already into hotel operation or are looking at doing multiple hotels, then our recommendation is probably to go for franchise, because eventually he will need to create a corporate team who takes care of multiple hotels. But if someone who is just doing 1 or 2 hotels and hotel is not going to be his mainstay, then we say that we are happy to come on board and run it on your behalf so that he doesn't have to go through the learning journey on each of his project.
Exactly, because to give some context to the audience, I think right now in Morocco, we have around, I think, 65,000, 70,000 established hotel keys. I think we have the estimate around 30 of those hotels are franchised. And it does show there might be a great opportunity moving forward. But once again, it's about finding the right brand, finding the right developer, and the right product in the right market. It's interesting to say, because I think, Shadi, we were mentioning the other day, some brands might be misaligned in some markets. They might be not targeting the right market. They might be better suited to kind of be brought down a segment or two. Have you seen cases where it's the opposite, where a market has been doing very well, a hotel that's been punching above its weight, and can maybe achieve, I guess, some better performance by increasing its segmentation?
I think it's yes is the short answer. You have in the market I used to cover in Saudi, we used to have 4 points by St. Regis. It's not a 4 points by Sheraton. No, I'm just kidding. A lot of the investors or the I would say, family offices or private families that are investing in hotels, there's a little bit of, I don't like to use the word ego, but pride. I want my hotel, even though if it's a Moxie or a Courtyard or a Fairfield, I want it to be the best of the best. I want to use marble. And it's our job to convince this owner, you should not overspend a hotel. And it's important to touch on this point in conversions, because our percentage of conversions have grown every year on year, especially in a market like the UAE. But we need to start taking, and I think all of us here take a pragmatic approach, right? If I tell you in my PIP, turn this wall red, will it increase my ADR by $10 by having it red? No, it won't. Then just leave it as it is. And we focus on the stuff, the fire life safety, that a lot of times owners think, oh, your requirements are too much. They are because we've got contracts with pharmaceutical companies, with energy companies, and they sign these contracts with us because our hotels meet a certain criteria, and that's the power of the brand and the contracts that they come with. I think Morocco is a very special place because we have a lot of European clientele as well as GCC. A Marriott in the UAE or in Saudi is 40 plus square meters. A Marriott in Paris can be 28, 30. And I think in Morocco, we have that flexibility. When we look at conversions, we can align with the European standards, as well as if it's a new build, we would prefer to have, obviously, a better product. Again, it's always up to what that return on investment, IRR figure that the owner will look at, that will drive this. But in Morocco, we see brands, we haven't seen any brand that's over-spec'd yet. Most recently, we opened the Courtyard here in Casablanca, and that's an on-strategy, beautifully built hotel, right, Edgar? Sorry, I like to, but it's a great example of an upscale 4-star Courtyard by Marriott, great location in a corporate city, business city like Casablanca.
And I think you came up to that point about returns, because at the end of the day, the owners need to make money, they have to justify their investment.
And we won't be sitting here if they're not making returns.
Exactly. At the end of the day, the question is, what do brands do? What do they bring to the table? They bring the expertise, they bring that global reach through the distribution systems, and that comfort when it comes to travelers. But when it comes to, I guess, making the numbers align, it is becoming much more expensive to build hotels. Costs are rising. We are starting to see, I guess, creative ways to balance that risk, whether it's through branded residences, and this isn't only through your high-end luxury product, but also your mid-scale segment. I think, Reda, we were talking about this earlier today, how you might have a developer who comes from a, should I say, retail and commercial background, and they have a perfect product to work, but they're unwilling to kind of make that shift into hotels. How do you kind of provide them with that comfort? And I think it's been brought up earlier that the new CFC and specific markets are prime and could, I guess, play very well with this modular kind of design.
I think the perfect answer is maybe to do mixed-use developments, because mixed-use allow us to balance the risk between the different components, which means on one side you can develop retail, offices, residences, hotels, can do also living with apart hotels, and you can do branded residences. And that's why at the core we have developed a full ecosystem of solution for branded residential, for co-working solution with a JV with Bouygues Immobilier, with Kojo, with Wojo, sorry. And the idea is to design a solution which would bring added value on the site by creating a destination within the destination, because on hospitality, the finality of the hotel is not to sleep. It was the old definition. The new definition is the place to be, the place to live, and the place to share a memorable experience. And with this approach, we give more comfort on the profitability for the owner in order to balance the risk, to have some anticipated cash flow through the sales of the residential unit and also of the branded residences. And also, we can offer something very unique and very new in the market through the branded residences. Because branded residences is a fantastic business model that we already tested and developed, and it's a fantastic success story that we have in the Fairmont Marrakech, the Fairmont Tarazout, and the Fairmont Rabat also. And you're right, it's not only for our top-end and ultra-luxury brands, but we can do it also with our premier brand like Pullman, Novotel, or Pullman, Movenpick, and Swissôtel, for example.
So 100%, mixed use helps that. But what we have seen across Africa, funding hotels are a challenge. And branded residences take some part of that funding risk away. Obviously, the developer loves it because there is an additional component. Hoteliers love it because in addition to hotels, we have another component which we can help serve, and it can add to our service and bottom line. And I think the funding agency and the bankers love it because another part of cash flow and risk and equity can be taken care. If it is done right and if it is structured right, it can be win-win for all, provided it is structured right. So that's where the question is.
Exactly, and a key component there is location. That really does matter. And as we've seen, I guess most branded residence developments on the continent have been more in the northern half of the continent, and also some in the Indian Ocean, where you do have that, I guess, foreign investment from the northern hemisphere for investment opportunities or summer pied-à-terre. But it comes down to money, and I think you mentioned about sourcing this capital. Right now, brands, the question is, what do you bring to the table? I think when it comes to an investor perspective, it's a very competitive market. I'm not sure if you've been in negotiations with these fine gentlemen on the stage, but they do try to incentivize you, help you structure deals. How have you kind of seen, I guess, the way to, secure those projects which are close to you? And I think the word I want to say is key money. And
I was worried.
What's that? I don't know what is that.
No idea what that
My
is.
wallet.
yeah,
I would have thought that you would say brand recognition or something like that. But
Yeah.
I'm talking about tangible, hard currency, something that can help bridge that gap beyond the liquidity from banks or equity. Yeah.
I think it's important, and in a market like Morocco now, with the vision of His Majesty is being realized through, the minister yesterday mentioned the focus on investment and the focus on tourism, and it's not just about the World Cup, like SMIT mentioned. They're giving international investors and foreign direct investors comfort. The financial system here is a lot more sophisticated than it was 5-10 years ago. Morocco is a market where we're more comfortable to put some skin in the game, whether it be through key money, whether it be through, even if we're looking at a wider investment with a group or development management agreement. Marriott is a company that invests its own money. We've proven this when we did the Edition portfolio. We more recently bought the actual physical asset of the W in New York, Union Square, to reposition it. We do work with owners and structure financial support. In North America, you've got mezz loans, you've got so many different alternatives that you do. But again, here, we demonstrate skin in the game with not just that word of key money. There are works around owners' priorities. We won't get our fees through. So there are creative ways, but when it comes to, is it a big no to say we're not going to invest or put key money or contribute 10% of the owner's equity over a period of 5-6 years? Everything is on the table now. As sophisticated as the financial system becomes, and we've got the IMF supporting, and we've heard Olivier from Casada, they're doing their own fund here as well. So I think Morocco is becoming more and more sophisticated and offers that security for international investors. And money from Egypt came recently in Venezuela. They bought a huge development.
In Palmyra.
Exactly. So that's how we feel. We never say no to investment or putting some skin in the game, but it just needs to make financial sense, and it's a win-win situation, and there's a way to exit. I know the clock, this is really intimidating, so you can...
So I think we're running out of time, but I think quickly running down, where do you see your brand in Morocco in the next 5 to 10 years? And yeah, I think if anyone has questions, feel free to harass these gentlemen afterwards.
So listen, I think I've said at the very beginning, right? IHG doesn't have presence as of today under brands. We have under our umbrella, we have Iberostar, as you know. But other than that, we don't have anything. We're really focusing in Morocco. It's our key priority markets in Africa. So I see in the next 5 to 10 years opening several hotels and a robust pipeline. So very excited about that.
Thank you for saving time for the rest, but I think we'll move on quickly.
For us, it's focusing on the pipeline we have, but choosing the right partner is critical.
We opened 5 hotels the past 3 years. We're opening 5 the next 18 months. So on the next 2 years or 3 years, we will doubling up the capacity. If the question is what's happening after that, for the World Cup, we would have multiplied by 3 or 4 our inventory.
So we are starting on a small base of 2 hotels, but we see a significant opportunity on all the key cities where we are not there, and just not 1, probably 2, 3 in each of these cities. So surely 8 to 10 hotels by 2030, which is a one big event.
For us, it's a perfect momentum to speed up our development because, we have developed a lot of hotels in the past with the network of 40 hotels. Today, we would like to introduce new brands in a new destination all around Morocco and also to complete our existing network. We have a fantastic team in Casablanca with a head office with more than 40 people, and we have a great ambition to support the development and the vision of Morocco to be at 2030 with the great network that we could offer to the foreign customers.
Well, I think that's it for time. Thank you, everyone, very much.
Thank you, David.
Thank